Welcome. Today we're going to dive into this absolutely incredible story of transformation. It's all about how a very proper, very disciplined British sport, football, crossed an ocean and was completely reborn as a passionate, vibrant art form in South America. So how on earth did that happen? And that's the big question, right? But this is so much more than a story about a game getting popular in a new place. It's about how an entire culture can take an idea and twist it, shape it, and turn it into something beautifully unrecognizable. The best way to think about it? It's a story of a seed and the soil it was planted in. So first, let's talk about that seed. We need to get a handle on the original British blueprint for football, the version that was packed up and shipped all over the world. What's really wild is just how quickly this all came together. I mean, football went from this chaotic, messy folk game to something highly organized in just a few decades. The big bang moment was 1863, when the Football Association was formed. Suddenly, everyone's playing by the same rules. And right on the heels of that, you get the FA Cup, the national leagues, and boom, the framework for the modern professional game is born. And you've got to understand, they exported more than just a ball and a rule book. They exported an entire idea of what a sports club should be. You know, this very formal, structured thing with committees, official memberships, and a whole lot of rules. The entire vibe was built around discipline and, well, what they called gentlemanly conduct. That was the original package. Okay, so you have this very proper, very buttoned-up game. Of course, it wasn't going to stay put in Britain, was it? Like so many other ideas in the 19th century, it hitched a ride on ships with people and commerce and sailed right across the Atlantic. And you can literally trace the pathway it took, step by step. First, it's the British expats, engineers, merchants who brought the game over, probably just to feel a bit closer to home. They started the first clubs. Pretty soon, the local South American elites looked over and thought, hey, that looks modern, that looks sophisticated, and they started their own clubs, copying the British model. But here's the kicker. A game this good could never be contained. It just exploded out from the elite circles and into the streets, into the working class and immigrant neighborhoods. And that, right there, is where everything began to change. And this brings us back to our metaphor, the soil. Because that British seed was planted in a completely different cultural environment. The social dynamics, the history, the raw passion of South America, all of it started to reshape the game from the ground up, turning it into something totally new. And when you put them side by side, the transformation is just, wow. That rigid European tactical discipline, it was replaced with a celebration of individual flair and on-the-spot improvisation. That exclusive, class-based game, it became radically inclusive, the people's game. And gentlemanly conduct? Yeah, that gave way to football pasional, a game of pure, unfiltered collective emotion. The stiff formations just melted away, replaced by rhythm and creativity. And out of all this amazing new football culture was born. Clubs weren't just sports teams anymore. No way. They became these powerful social hubs. They were living symbols of your neighborhood, your background, your identity. And those fierce classical rivalries, man, that was never just about winning a match. It was about defending the honor of your entire community. Now, this transformation didn't look the same everywhere, so let's zoom in on the birth of the footballing giants, Argentina, Brazil, and Uruguay, because each one of them developed its own distinct football DNA. You can really taste the different flavors here. In Argentina, it was all about the gambeta, that tricky individual dribble, and those super intense rivalries like Boca versus River, which were all about class identity. Brazil, meanwhile, gifted the world Jenga, that rhythmic, almost dance-like style that grew right out of its Afro-Brazilian roots. And then you have Uruguay, which did something fascinating. They brilliantly blended European tactical thinking with that South American skill, and they just dominated the early international scene. This quote from the Brazilian club Corinthians, it just says everything. O time do povo, the people's team. You have to understand, that wasn't some fancy marketing slogan. It was a declaration. It was a statement of fact that these clubs belonged to the masses. They were literally becoming a voice for the working class. So what's the legacy of all this? Well, this incredible new creation didn't just stay in South America. It exploded onto the world stage and honestly changed the game of football forever. And if there's one thing to take away from all of this, let it be this. This was not imitation. This was pure innovation. South America didn't just copy football. It absorbed the blueprint, and then it created a more passionate, more creative, and ultimately a more meaningful version of the game. And all that innovation led to a massive global harvest. The continent became a factory for talent, an epicenter of footballing passion. And all that flair, all that style got exported back to Europe and the rest of the world. It's the perfect proof that cultural exchange is never a one-way street. The seed may have been British, but the fruit that grew from it really did change the world. And all of this leaves us with one last question. Because this process, this reinvention, it never really stops. The game is always being shaped by new cultures and new ideas. So it makes you wonder, doesn't it? How and where is the game being reinvented right now, today?